Nice.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you? I'm
First time meeting
Sade.
you. Same.
Guys, we're
Right?
meeting each other for the first time, okay? This is all happening real. Hey, Joel.
Hey.
You know a lot of people that I know.
Yeah, I just
But
realised
we've
as well.
never met.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Fan of your work
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so guys, I'm Sade. Amongst other things, I'm actually one of the organisers of this event. So if I'm a bit flustered and all over the place, that's why, because I'm doing multiple things at the same time. But I'm also a podcaster as well on a podcast called Your Aunties Could Never as well. So yeah, there's that. Guys, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Dre Hall. I've been a producer and a composer for about 10 years. I have about 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I've done tracks for Love Island, Amazon. I've performed in most continents in the world. And so my background is very much production and composition. And I've recently started a music tech company that helps emerging artists break into the music industry. So that's a bit about me.
Love that.
Amazing. Hey, I'm Joel. I'm a senior editor at Spotify, looking after loads of playlists and playlist brands, but also genres, so hip hop, R&B, Afrobeats, the Caribbean, and some pop music as well.
Hey, love that. Lovely. So we're talking about creativity, music, and tech today. How do you both see the evolution of music streaming and podcasting?
Hello?
You want to start?
So from a streaming a podcast, I don't have a podcast.
Okay, go.
But I think I can comment more on the music creation side. Currently with AI, there are lyric generators that lots of artists are using, ChatGPT, DeepFlow.
Yeah.
There are AI mixing and mastering systems out there that you can upload a track and they will analyze the frequencies, the compression, and make balance changes to your tracks and make them louder, make them more radio ready. I think AI is very, very helpful in that regard. There's also AI chord generators as well, where producers and composers no longer need to know how to play piano. Yeah, they can
For
just
real?
input, I guess Jill Scott type piano,
Okay.
and it will spit out ideas for you that way.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
yeah, I think AI is definitely coming up as a tool for producers and composers and artists as well.
Okay.
There's been quite a discussion about if that will overtake
Yeah.
producers. I don't think it will. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I do
Okay.
think it's a good tool to help with the creative process.
Okay. And yourself, Joel?
Yeah, I think the evolution is super interesting. I've been in the industry for maybe this is coming up to my 10th year. And from where I started and the kind of influence on tech to where it is now is completely different. One of my first roles, I worked at BBC introducing, and we'd have to go out and proper find artists and music and go to shows to, I guess, find people to support. Whereas now, the kind of influx and the advancement in tech and receiving music is so easy that you don't even need to leave your house sometimes. And it's really interesting to see the kind of the way that tech can help influence my work as well. Before it was very much trying to find stuff, listen to stuff, and see stuff with my own eyes. And now it's like you mentioned, there's AI tools that can help. There's music discovery. There's machine human learning, where you're recommended and can discover music without having to look too hard.
And do you guys, what's your opinion on it in terms of people that use those tools? Is it go for it, do it, or do you think it kind of takes away from real, or human creativity? Let's say that.
Oh, is my mic on? Oh. I think they used to have this discussion about samples as well. If you don't know what a sample is, it's something that someone else has pre-made that you are using in your music. And there was this discussion back then as well of shouldn't you make music yourself? I think a tool is there to be used. I think if the music connects with people, it doesn't matter how it was made, really. Like I said, I don't think AI will completely take away any of the creative process. You still need to know what to do with these tools. But a tool is to be used. I don't think there's anything wrong with using them. If you can't figure out how to finish your verse, there's nothing wrong with getting a suggestion from AI. It's the same as getting a suggestion from a friend if they were in the room.
Yeah, I think the best mix is when both are combined together. So when you kind of use tech to inform your decisions and vice versa as well, and help influence tech using actual human learnings and human advice. And I see that's where you kind of get the best results at work as well.
Okay, great. And then Dre, tell us about, is it Beats Aura?
Yes.
Yeah, tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that. What inspired you to create it?
Oh dear. I mean, well, maybe I should start with what Beats Aura is. It is a subscription-based beat licensing service, and we are focused on helping emerging artists break into the music industry. I've been working with artists, for 10 years, but for the last 2 years, I worked in prisons and youth centers, working with underprivileged kids. And there was an abundance of talent there, but there was this financial ceiling where it's quite expensive to license music and release music and promote it and record it. It's an expensive process. So what we've done is we've got a bunch of Grammy-nominated producers to create a library that we give the access to artists for a subscription fee. So it's a lot cheaper for them. We have running AI mixing and mastering as well to help with that part of the music creation process. We have a music educational tool as well, so they can have all the information they need to know between what a publishing deal is, how to upload onto Spotify, a 360 deal. And we also have a track review service as well. And what we do with this service is we're trying to help emerging artists get all the information they need to begin their career and sustain their career consistently. And that was born out of what I saw in youth centers, honestly, just seeing talent, but they didn't know what to do with it.
Sounds like a one-stop shop for everything.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah?
much. It's definitely it's condensed 10 years of my life, everything I've done
Yeah.
in different areas of the music industry into one.
And you say that it started, you was inspired by the youth, basically,
Yeah.
essentially. But what kind of, can you pinpoint what it was exactly?
I think it's when I was really shocked at how talented the young people were, but they had no idea how to upload their songs. They had no idea the difference between an MP3 file and a WAV file. They had no frame of reference of what was good, how a song should be structured. And they also were getting their songs from YouTube, which if they don't own a license for,
Yeah.
they can't upload to Spotify, it's going to get taken down. So they had this abundance of talent, but they had no way to actually start a music career without me being in the room. And I just saw this trend happening for 2 years. And maybe I'd say even for longer than that. But I just made a decision. I was like, I'm going to try and do something about this because they're way too talented for the world not to hear. And if they had a service that could help them, they could begin their journey.
Yeah, sounds good, sounds good. Joel, obviously we're at a very diverse event today.
Yeah.
And you're here representing Spotify. How does Spotify ensure diverse voices are highlighted?
Such a good question. I think that we do it in very different ways, both internally and externally. So externally, we have this program, well, it's an internal program, but we kind of filter it out externally called CEF, which is the Creator Equity Fund, where we have a large sum of money that we use to invest specifically in diverse creators, predominantly black creators as well. And through that, we've been able to do so much work. I'd say my main passion at Spotify is I work for, a big, massive tech company, and I want to use my position to kind of uplift black businesses and black brands. So a lot of work we've done in the last couple years is work with people like yourselves, with like Afro Paradise and like Nep and Fifi, but also No Signal, just kind of like uplifting brands that are doing their own thing, because I don't know, it's the culture, and we want to, instead of doing our own thing and kind of like making a massive space in the black audience, we'd rather uplift businesses already trying to do that and kind of help them amplify it by, whether it be like helping with funding or helping with marketing, providing like billboards and stuff like that. I think that's more important to us than just doing our own thing in that space, because we want to build trust with the community for sure.
You was going to say something?
I was just going to say that's good to know. I didn't know that Spotify did all that stuff, actually. We're actually running a few workshops with kids in community centers, and I'd like to know a bit more about all of that, actually. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also, what kind of, because obviously we're here, it's a Black Tech Fest. What tips and tricks do you have for people to break into, tech and creative fields, especially from these marginalized communities that we're talking about?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think breaking into any industry is difficult. The problem with the tech industry now is with the advancements of AI, it's so saturated. It's actually pretty much like the music industry. So I think what it really focuses on is finding a problem and using tech to solve the problem, rather than trying to find something to do with tech itself. If the problem doesn't have to be solved with AI, then don't use AI. But I think focusing on a problem that needs to be solved is probably a better way to break into an industry than just trying to use the new technology that's just come out.
You see, when people say that, so like find a problem to be solved, sometimes they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what would you suggest if they don't know that? Because like you get these big ideas and it's just like, oh yeah, I just wanted to fix this gap. But what if you don't have that passion to fix something?
I think you might need more experiences.
Okay.
I remember maybe 7 years ago, there was a lot of people saying, what if McDonald's delivered? Why doesn't McDonald's deliver? Pizza Hut does, why not McDonald's? And I think any one of those people could have really ran with that idea and tried to create the first Just Eat. So I think if you look, you don't even have to look pretty hard, you just need to expose yourself to different areas and you'll see things that maybe could be done better. And then you just take one step after the other trying to solve that issue until you have a business.
Okay, good. Joel?
I would say I come from a creative side, but weirdly enough, the last 2 companies I've worked for have been tech companies, and I'd say there seems to be maybe a disconnect between the people that are actually the coders, the people advancing the tech, and then also the creative side. I used to work for a label, but it was a tech company. And there was always that kind of like divide between the creatives and the tech, and I'd say when like trying to break in, just look at ways you can help mold that gap or be the bridge or help communicate what the creative team's needs are to the people in R&D, and how the R&D needs can be communicated back to the creative team. And once you kind of find that synergy, the opportunities, I think, in my opinion, are endless, and like what you can like translate that role to, especially if you're not like me, not from a tech background, or don't have a necessarily like passion for coding or stuff like that, and more on the creative side. But with everything and the advancement of the world right now, it's really important to have that kind of knowledge of like where things are going and how you can kind of maintain that creative edge to then work with people that work in R&D for sure.
I'd like to just touch on that. I think that really centers around just teamwork in general. Is even if you're not very well versed in a specific area of expertise, there will be people, especially at events like this, that will be very well versed in tech, in R&D, in A&R, in music creation, in product management. There's many people around you that may hold different skills than you do, and so just having the right team around you is also a big way to break into industry as well.
And another thing I'd say is when looking at job descriptions, I remember when I wanted to like break out into the industry, I started in A&R, and I used to look at like job description, job roles, and I just started actually just doing it anyway. I believe that like you are the job before you get it. So looking at job descriptions and just seeing what ways you can apply the needs that this job needs from you or whatever into like your actual life, or into your own ideas, into your own creative projects, kind of similar to what you've done with Pepper. And it might turn into something on its own, or it might actually be that landing spot for you to get another role. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Definitely. I think like even in my own career, I kind of got my path through not being able to get a job, essentially. So I had to like find a way to earn money and kind of focus on my skills, and and all these years later I'm here, kind of thing. Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people the people that create something great stems from just thinking outside of the box. Thinking, it doesn't have to always be a job. You can invest and believe in yourself and the skills that you have or the passions that you have. And sometimes adversity, I personally grew up very deprived, and that level of adversity always made me think, okay, what more can I do to make sure that my kids don't grow up the way that I did. That's not really to answer a question. I think that's just a thought that I think adversity can actually be quite a good thing, and maybe not to shy away from it.
No, I agree totally. Like even myself, it's it was definitely a challenge growing up. Do you know what I mean? And I think it kind of gives you passion, and like because you're in kind of survival mode, so you don't really have any choices and stuff. But even if you don't come from an adverse background, like I think like definitely like being consistent with something really, really helps you push through as well. And definitely like what you guys are saying in terms of like networking and collaboration and that sort of thing as well. Yeah. Joe, do you want to add to that? Or-
No,
okay?
perfect.
No?
Summed up
Yeah, I
perfectly.
agree.
Okay, I think we can take some audience questions if we have some mics. Do we have some mics?
This question is mainly for Joel. Spotify public facing, it gets a lot of scrutiny because it's, a lot of the time artists have to say that they don't get a lot of their revenues coming from Spotify equally. And generally speaking, Spotify doesn't actually make profits as well. In the future, do you see it incorporating stuff like blockchain into what it does, or how do you see it developing and progressing along with the tech industry?
Good question. I think that what I see more is just more transparency between like how it actually works and how all the system works, and then hopefully more amplification about the transparency. So we have a website called Loud and Clear, and it kind of breaks down how Spotify works, how we pay rights holders, which effectively pays artists, and how much we give out over the year, and years to come as well. So I kind of see just more shine on the transparency we try to give out for sure. And in terms of profit making, I feel like that's one, above my pay grade. But two, I think there's more opportunities for artists and managers and labels to kind of for Spotify to be their home of audio. So we have an ad sales team, some of them are here, and just different ways we try to kind of advance the business and be the #1 partner for audio lovers. So that's podcasting, that's there's a few things in the future that they're planning as well, but we want to be the true home of audio.
Thank you. There's a question over there.
I just wanted to pick up on the question about blockchain technology, and whether you do see the music industry moving more towards kind of community ownership over records, so fans being able to have kind of an equal share in artist music, and artists can kind of give fans ownership of their music as well.
Good question. I think there are a few companies that have started up that are kind of going in that kind of blockchain movement. They're still yet to see what the results are. I think it's really interesting having your fans having a piece of your music and ownership, but yet to see what that does. There's a company called Hypnosis, which are really interesting. They're buying a lot of rights and catalogue of artists like Rodney Jerkins, the producer, Shakira, they've bought, spending hundreds of millions of pounds on this catalogue and putting them on the stock market. So again, it's so new that it's hard to see what the results will be, but stuff like that is going to be really, really interesting to watch out and play out.
I don't think necessarily it's on the responsibility of Spotify itself to integrate these things. Like artists, if they retain the ownership of their music, they can issue NFTs, they can do community ownership over their songs if they so wish. You don't need a distribution platform, a streaming platform to do that for you as an artist. The technology is there for any artist to do that for themselves. I think that's definitely people. I think maybe it comes down to music education again of how these things work. And when you have the ownership and the rights, you own the masters of your own tracks, you can pretty much implement any of these systems yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we should probably move into that, really into that space where shared ownership and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
For sure. Another question?
Question. Yeah, so Spotify Green Room is the live audio version of it's like Clubhouse, right? Amazon Amp had a version that's shut down. I just wanted to know what you think about the kind of whole live audio space. He's smiling, so I don't know if...
I'm smiling because that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Can you tell us why?
Can Can I tell you what? Well, I guess it's obvious if it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Next question, please.
Hi, this is another question for Joel. You mentioned that one of your passions is uplifting businesses. So I work in finance, I have a finance consultancy, and we help give businesses access to funding. So it kind of aligns with you in the sense of wanting to help more black businesses to get them access to the right funding. So I was curious to know, like, what do you look for in those businesses and brands, and then what do you actually do to help to sort of promote them or give them access to more exposure?
Great question. So, more specifically in my role, looking after hip hop, R&B, dancehall, the Caribbean, and a lot of like black curators in different spaces. We kind of work in two ways. So one in quarters. Every quarter we have like our aims. We have our aim for the year, then we work in quarters. And in each quarter there are like some flagship either like playlist brand campaigns or artist album releases. And there's always ways we try to integrate a campaign with maybe a black business. So for instance, I rebranded, or we did like a massive carnival campaign, for instance, for Notting Hill Carnival, where we partnered with loads of artists around the world, predominantly in like soca, dancehall and reggae spaces. And instead of using a normal agency that we'd get to create these assets and do the photo shoots, and we were more looking for like black brands and like that can actually like really get it. So we hired an agency called Pack. They did incredible work, and now if you look at the amount of stuff they've done for Spotify, not just in my team but around the world, they've just done a Canadian campaign. They've done the African Heat, which is our flagship African playlist rebrand. They've done stuff for Wrapped, which is our global brand, working across like all creators from all different backgrounds. And that's the kind of way we try to like kind of uplift black businesses. Another one is No Signals, another great example. They're doing their own thing. They have loads of parties, and sometimes we sit into a space like, we want to do this, we want to do a party, and I'm like, okay, there's already that going on, so how can we just partner with them and kind of uplift what they're doing? So it is very ad hoc and it's very unpredictable, but it just depends on what our goals are for the year and for that quarter.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Another one? Yeah.
Hi, I've got a question for Dre, and this is basically off of the back of thinking about the different AI tools that there are sort of in music production, and sort of specifically on when it comes to the mixing and mastering. Where do you think like the ecosystems at, where's the industry at in terms of AI mixing and mastering? Is that at a place where it could replace engineers yet, or are we still way off that?
Oh dear, that's a tough question. I think most VSTs and plugins are already using AI modules already. So Ozone 10, there is literally a mix button where it will analyze your whole track and give you a preset mix, depending on various parameters. I wouldn't say that they can replace the ear of a mix engineer. I wouldn't say that. A lot of mix engineers, and especially mastering engineers, hone their skills for years and have outboard gear worth hundreds of thousands of pounds that can also aid in their mixing and mastering. But like I said, I think it's a very, very good starting point where it can show you some of the issues in your track and at least give you a starting point of what to focus on and what a good mix can sound like. But I don't think it will necessarily replace a mixing and mastering engineer, but it's a good tool. It can help. For independent artists, it's a great tool because it means you don't have to spend £300 to £3,000 to mix a track. You can save a lot of money if you're an independent artist, but yeah, it's just a tool. I don't think it will ever replace that industry and that profession.
Okay, I think, do we have time for just one more? Just one. Go wherever you want to go.
I think this guy had his hand up first.
which one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a question for Spotify. So I know Amazon have most of the market share in terms of books and audiobooks and stuff like that. But I just wanted to ask, in terms of Spotify, like, do you think it's going to take off in the same way, like in terms of audiobooks? And how do you sort of see the future in regards to what Spotify, like what direction you're going with audiobooks?
Good question. I don't necessarily work in audiobooks, but I know that, again, we want to be the number one partner for audio, and audiobooks is a part of that. It's very new, so right now we're still, I'd say it's in that beta mode. We're still working on how to integrate it best within the app, and make it a best user experience. But I imagine that as it grows, as we get a bigger team working on that department, and that it's gonna get better and better, and we could just use user feedback to just get better. I think our goals right now is just getting it right for our users over market share and stuff like that.
Thank you so much, guys. Any last words of wisdom you can leave with this very engaged audience?
Oh gosh.
Put you on the spot.
Hello. Is this working? Oh, I wouldn't say I had many words of wisdom. I think the main thing I'd like to take away is just, in regards to music and tech, is that, they're just tools. I think I'd like to really hit home on that. There's nothing wrong with using a tool to help your creativity. I think that's something that comes up a lot in my industry. And my personal take is just, if the tool is there, to use it. And if it helps creativity, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I would say, I guess some of the best examples of tech working hand in hand with humans and creativity on Spotify are stuff like AI DJ. It's not 100% AI. We work on it as well and kind of influence that system. You have algotorial playlists that you can discover new music, but also has the editor's eye and ear over it, so it's really well curated. Fans first, stuff like that are all great examples of the marrying of human creative and tech.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.